Yeah, everybody recording?
Yep.
Including me.
Recording, yes.
Cool. Fantastic. Okay. Hello and welcome to Hold My Popcorn, where we make fun of the good movies and trash the bad ones. I'm Max Healy over in Nashville. And in the north end of Boston, we got Tim Begin. How you doing, Timmy?
Doing fantastic, Max. There's another round of horrendous fireworks going off around the city of Boston tonight, which is great. It's been that way for like 2 months for some reason. And I'm excited to not be able to sleep tonight again, so that's what's going on.
That's cool.
Yep.
And over in Sacktown, California, we got John Anoshak. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm just fine, man. I met somebody earlier today who told me that if I find my prostate, that I'll see a white light. So I have extracurricular activities for this weekend. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great. You know, audio's doing great. No problems on my side whatsoever. Haven't wasted anybody's time. So super happy about that because this week we're welcoming in a very special guest. He was a longtime writer for the late night show with Jay Leno and the Jay Leno Show. Co-creator of Nickelodeon's Rocket Power, which was definitely one of our favorite shows growing up. You might know him as the Razzie-nominated screenwriter of the movie White Chicks, or you might know him as the smart co-host on Edumacation with Kevin Smith. So we got writer, producer, visual effects, supervisor, book author, and of course, Professor Andrew McElfresh is on the show.
Not a real professor. Not a real professor.
You did it.
But listen, it's going to be very difficult for me to follow that prostate story. You got to remember the tee up. It goes hot joke, little less, and then you come in for the killer. And now I've got to follow a prostate joke. There's nothing for me to say.
Way to go, John.
Yeah, I just ruined it for everybody. All right, so free prostate exams for you, free prostate exams for you. Everybody gets free prostate exams.
I kind of feel like he was saying that to kind of tell everybody that he hadn't done it already when it didn't ring true to me. I don't know why.
You think he's sitting on a Sibian right now.
That's why he has his shirt off.
Yeah, that's the sound of the motor going.
Yep.
Yeah, advice to anyone else that wants to be on this podcast. Turn off the visuals on Skype.
But Andrew, thank you very much for coming on the show.
I'm very happy to be here. I'm just goofing around. You guys are very good, and I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, our cameras aren't really on.
No, because I sent you that letter from my lawyer.
You saw John's LinkedIn profile, and he said, "There's no way I'm looking at this guy for an hour."
No, not with that pencil mustache. That fucking thing. Nah.
I didn't even notice. I was just staring into his eyes.
Oh, you were afraid you're going to be transfixed. And
That's
unable
true.
To,
and I wouldn't. I'd freeze on camera.
Right.
I wouldn't be able to. I'm like, what happened to that guy?
Right. Like a Gone with the Wind scene. I don't even know if that's a reference.
Are you referring to like all the people in the railway yard lying on the ground?
Or Scarlett getting raped?
Of her wearing the curtains down the staircase?
Listen, guys, I don't know what I'm saying. And we should know this by now.
Cool.
So.
Yes.
All right, well, this week we're starting our Indiana Jones miniseries, and first up is the 1981 classic Raiders of the Lost Ark, directed by Steven Spielberg and starring Harrison Ford, Karen Allen, and Paul Freeman.
Oh, it's so good. I'm so honored that you guys asked me to talk about this movie with you. It is really one of my faves, and it is one of the best movies of all time.
I've got to agree with you. Like I wasn't too excited. I mean, I haven't seen Indy in a long time. The last memory I have of Indy is the Crystal Skull or whatever the fuck. It doesn't exist.
Ooh.
So yeah, so it was bad in the back of my mind, but grew up watching it, and the first 30 seconds snagged me. I mean, it's that good. It really is that good. It's timeless. The effects stand up because a lot of it's practical, but very first fucking scene, you just see Indy in his hat. It's like, bam! All right, I'm in.
Well, I mean, yeah, there are some of the effects though where they're like, they're in the desert, they're having a car chase, and then one of the cars gets bumped off the road and goes down like a 6,000-foot cliff.
Right.
Like they didn't get it. It wasn't all hanging together there, but even so, it's funny and fun, and you're ready to make fun of the stuff that isn't perfect. I'm getting the feeling that I might be the only person that saw this movie in the theater when it came out.
You're the only person that was born when this movie came out.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I mean, as far as being a movie from the early 80s, too, it's very fast-paced.
It's almost perfect. It changed everything. Oh, my God. I must have seen it in the movie theater maybe 8 times.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. And this is the kind of movie that when you see it in a theater, like you understand the idea that you're on a ride because the audience reacts as one. Like it's what you want to be there for.
It is. Like, it's a perfect analogy as a ride because it does feel like you're at Universal Studios when you're watching this movie, or like movies like this, like Jaws feels like that too. They just don't make movies like this anymore that like really like engross you in the experience.
Yeah, including the new one that will be coming out.
Right.
Just so you don't get people writing in and angry. The Indiana Jones ride is actually at Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Jurassic Park ride that is just at Universal. And when I worked there for 2 years, a few years ago, constantly just on the loop, the Indiana or the Jurassic Park music, endless. To the point where you just can't stand it anymore. You wonder how those kids can work there.
I feel like that's where the cutting phenomenon comes from in a lot of situations. It's either that or retail operations that'll get you straight to cutting your own wrists.
Yeah, weed helps too, I'm sure, for those kids.
Performance enhancing drugs, yes.
Yeah.
So
wow, you don't go through the gears on that one. You're just like, I'm going straight for the cutting joke.
Constantly. I cut right through the bullshit. Southern raised, Southern proud, and an absolute liberal. So I'm a complete walking conundrum. So yeah, the sheer number of accents and voices in my head, who knows who I'll be tomorrow.
Wow.
All right,
So-
should we get into the movie?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool.
Please,
Good.
change the
We've been
subject.
recording for 20 minutes. All right, movie opens up in 1936, South America, with Big Dick Indiana Jones just swinging it below the knees and overcoming numerous booby traps in this ancient temple. That ends with the iconic scene of him switching the golden idol with a bag of sand. But it's a trap.
Yeah, but you got to give it to Indy. Like, before he even goes into the cave where the idol is, he stops and he fills up the bag with sand. And he's like, that should be enough sand. It's like, wow, this guy really knows his stuff.
And then he takes a little bit of sand out right before he switches the idol out. And then he's like, probably should have kept some of that sand in.
And after he puts the bag on, you can tell that it's a totally different time because while he's watching it, he touches his face. And you can't do that anymore.
So, Max, do you have any trivia behind this scene, though? Like, I mean, it's very iconic. You know, like Family Guy's made fun of it. You know, he's like licking his lips. He's touching his face. You're not allowed to do that anymore.
Yeah, just do it.
Yeah, like the whole thing. Like, how many times? Does anyone have any idea how many times it took them to shoot that?
I don't. I had a thing on the mountain. I know it took him several days to find a mountain that looked like the Paramount one in the opening scene, but as far as that take goes now.
I just thought it was an oddly looking German mountain in the background. So
My favorite thing about this scene is it just harkens back to old United States, right? They're like, listen, you native people, your artifacts aren't perfect in your country. We got to take them. Okay. Just like we got to take everyone's land and all this other stuff. I like that. I like that old America aspect. You know what I mean?
No. If only you spoke Jovitos, you would understand. They're like, get this fucking thing out of here. It's been nothing but trouble. We're scared to death of everything around here. When bats come flying out of a carved stone face and people run for cover.
Right. They're like, please, white man, take the artifacts of my history and bring them away. They're dangerous. And there are bats in caves. I get you. I'm with you.
Yeah, they belong in a museum.
well, so that's a funny motif of the entire series, where it's just Indy sitting in the background going, "It belongs in a museum." Just
okay. Which word in the title confused you guys that they weren't like stealing? Possibly the first one, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I thought he was talking about the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's a different
There you go.
approach to the film, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, it's why it surprised me a lot that this was this movie. I thought I was going to see John Gruden. Nope. Indiana Jones. Harrison Ford.
Okay, well, we're still in the temple.
Yeah.
Are we
Yes,
not going
we
to
are.
mention the great Alfred Molina as
Yep.
the guide who double crosses him? He saves his life as he's swinging over the pit, and then only to have Alfred Molina drop the whip and steal the idol.
He literally makes it 5 feet without Indiana Jones before getting impaled by all those
Yeah.
spikes.
I do love the sound effects too, in that they show a dead body, and they do the same thing when Marion is getting out of the asps snake pit.
Yeah.
There's just like dead bodies, and for some reason they're all like start moving and making sounds.
Yeah.
Like they're all screaming. When Alfred Molina's spiked face, like he's in the Green Berets, comes flapping out there, it goes, "Ah!" What?
Yeah, becomes a Cenobite right before that happens.
So it's really funny because like Max, like we covered The Mummy from the 90s a long time ago. And, the funniest thing that Max said about it, he was like, oh, yeah, it's basically the stupid version of Indiana Jones. Of course the actors can handle this fucking thing. It is, because in all of the dead bodies, same thing, the mummies, there's always like when it comes out. So it's almost like these assholes were legislating from the bench and just set precedent, and now everybody else knows that they can make dead bodies make noises after they've been decomposed for about 500 years.
It's a reoccurring thing because it definitely happens in the third movie with the like that hot Aryan when she's like gets attacked by a bunch of fucking skeletons. I don't know if it happens in the second one. We'll find out next week. But
That's a really interesting way to describe somebody, the hot Aryan.
Yep.
We'll unpack that later.
It's tough to jump in and co-sign any of that sentence, by the way. Just you made it really hard. A lot of spikes coming out of that sentence.
Gonna make us far as Alfred Molina saying stuff like that.
Yeah.
Andy's like a banker trying to give people with bad credit loans right now. He's like, oh, good. I don't think I can really do any of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, let's we'll
Hey,
just
good-looking
forge on.
people on both sides, okay?
Let's
All
put
right.
the hot Aryans aside.
Let's move away from that and talk about that giant boulder. How about that, huh, guys? It's pretty big.
Oh, it's massive.
So was the intent of the boulder as a booby trap because it seals off the cave, was the intent of the boulder to kill the people inside or to seal the cave off?
It's to seal the cave off, and you're
seal-
starting to scratch at the logic of why they would build a temple with a boulder that would take, I don't know, 600 men to move, and they would roll it up a track that was, I don't know, 70 yards long, when all they had to do was just slide in front of the door and everyone inside was done.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a very complicated system. Seems
Yeah,
like a very
well.
complicated system for people that had no comprehension of mechanics to build. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say they weren't, they knew how to do it.
Aliens.
But I agree with
They
you.
knew mechanics. They were able to hook up pneumatic rocks to blow dart shooters in the sides, make poison that would last for thousands of years in case it stuck into you. I mean, come on. These guys were very advanced.
Yeah.
But the boulder seems excessive.
Get the screaming, get the
So-
screaming sound effects too.
I'm taking the position that these folks were just way ahead of the curve on extreme tourism. But the problem is they didn't really look at the sustainability of the operation. Because imagine how many bodies they have to clean out every year.
That's true.
Every
And it is
year.
a temple. Like, do you think they have a wedding on a Saturday and they're like, oh, don't step on those particular stones. It's going to be bad.
Oh, absolutely. That's what makes the global south so much fun.
Like, as a temple, do you think there was like a basement where they have Jovitos AA meetings?
Yeah, they do. Definitely. You have to be really committed to get to it.
And he's still in this temple, by the way. All right. He narrowly escapes this tribe hired by the main villain of the movie, Belloc. And oh my God, there's also a snake in Indy's cockpit. And he hates snakes anywhere near his cack.
Jack! There's a snake in the plane!
That was the first snake in a plane reference, actually.
Yeah.
I think in history, before the movie was even made. Which leads me to believe, since history is cyclical, that the movie had been made before.
Well, I mean, the movie is based on 1930s serialized adventure films like the Adventures of Alan Quartermain, or whatever that was called. But we're forgetting when he first meets Belloc. Belloc only talks to him in very heavy-handed movie moments. He says to him, "There's nothing you can possess that I cannot take away." It's like, what?
That sounds like a cat is talking to somebody. Like,
He is such a dick. And he just is like, I am just going to rub your face in it. And then, because of his moment of pride, that's how Indy manages to escape.
Yep.
And run down to the screen for Jack to start the plane. And doesn't Jack feel like he just gets ripped off from screen time? Like, he seems like a fully made guy. He's wearing like a Boston hat or a New York Giants hat or something. He's fishing. He's got his own thing going on. And then it's like he's just there to have a snake on his plane.
uh-oh. Well, that's a first. Hello, Andy? Anyone there? Oh, wow. I just looked up on the bookshelf and there's a beer from last recording up there.
Nice.
Whoops.
Whoa, all right. Well, in the meantime.
Oh, dear God. I see why you left off. Why you dropped off.
Wait.
Up, then perfect
there
timing.
he is. Oh, I'm just going to turn myself off here. Hold on.
I had
Anyway,
thought that
put
you
the pace
all
back
had
on.
muted after my last joke, and because you didn't want to wipe the tears away from your eyes on microphone. But it turns out that you just dropped me. You were like, "That's it. That joke sucked." Was
You're
really
done.
what you were saying.
You're fucking out.
All right. I think we were talking about Jock and how he just wasn't really well used, or you thought that he would be a bigger, character or something like
Poor
that.
Jack. He just got the shaft in this.
Yeah. I think
But then
Indy fired him
Then
after
we
the
move
whole
on. Yeah, the whole thing.
little snake fiasco there.
But, I mean, okay, so number one, he's a pilot. Number two, he likes to fish. Okay, you've got some detail and some depth to this character. And then you give him a pet snake, and then, to your point, he doesn't show up ever, really, at all, again.
Yeah.
That's true.
Kind of weird.
But I guess, when you think about it, he probably didn't know Indy that well, because he's like, "Hey, I brought a snake. What's wrong with that?" And Indy's like,
Totally normal.
I have a pathological, deep-seated, Freudian, utter blood-freezing fear of snakes. And you put a snake here? So
That's a
yeah.
deal breaker.
Maybe it's really that Jock hates Indy. He's like,
Could
this
be.
fucking guy again. Always hires me, and then I get shot in the face by natives.
That's all I want to do is just go fishing.
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I found a great fishing hole for me to somehow put a seaplane into, even though it's really just in the universal backlot.
All right. After this, you have all these open mouth students, I fucking Indian class, followed by some chalkboard exposition setting up the plot of the movie, where the army hires Indy to find the Ark of the Covenant before the Nazis can get their hands on it and destroy the world. So no pressure.
My one big qualm with the movie. I love this movie. Was my one big problem with it. We don't see Indy railing one of these students.
Now wait
I
a
needed-
second. You're not thinking everything in this. Everything that's happened, there is a reference to something that will come later, like the snakes, for example.
Right.
And in that scene, he's trying to concentrate, and this girl has written in eyebrow pencil on her eyelids, "Love you," and it
Right.
distracts him for a second. Flash forward to him and Marion, and he's like, "I'm sorry, what happened, Marion?" She's like, "It was wrong," because she was too young. That's their relationship from before. He did have sex with a underage co-ed. It was Marion.
Understood. But my one big problem with it is that it was not shown.
Yeah.
You want to see the actual hardcore railing going on.
Yeah.
Andy, you have not listened to enough episodes of this show.
Yeah.
Full penetration.
is
Full
high.
penetration is my bar.
Full penny.
All right.
You know what? No. So I think honestly, the love you eyelids, it was really fantastic. It gave me some hope in humanity that the blowjob was invented far before the 1930s,
Right.
and that makes me happy. So I'm good with that. Now, did we need to see the full railing?
Invented.
No. Let's look.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, we think we're onto something. We're gonna
People in white lab coats.
test it
People
out.
in
Yeah, we got a control
Taking
group over
notes.
here.
Keep going. This is for science.
Yeah, someone from Colombia just showed up and told me how to do this shit. It's fucking wild. It's caught on like wildfire. You should see Lower East Side in New York. It's blowjobs everywhere. But no, I completely lost my train of thought. Everyone
Good.
Continue.
Mission accomplished.
Well done.
So Indy flies to Nepal and offers his former flame and drinking champion Marion Ravenwood.
Wait, you're skipping over the two mysterious government guys.
Right.
They come and they're like, hey, we want to talk to you about something that the audience obviously knows nothing about. So you're going to have to explain it to us. And he goes, let me think. Say, I have a picture of the book. I mean, in this book, I seem to have right here. It's got giant clasps on it and it's made of wood. And I will open it and it will fall open to that page. And they're like, oh, maybe we are talking to the right guy. Now, you know who the chubby guy is in that scene?
Mike Holmgren.
He's Chubbs. He's the X-Wing pilot. That
Oh my God, no way.
Yeah.
What?
Stay on target.
Stay on target.
Stay on target. There. And then he hits the side of the Death Star and burns for 4 days.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Now,
Anyway.
also, Denholm Elliott, his little mentor back there, he plays bigger in the later movies. But this is where Indiana Jones assembles his tools of the trade / weapons. His whip, his revolver, and his leather jacket and his hat. Those are very important things in a movie like this because, without that, we wouldn't have thought about the gun for the time that he actually uses it. So there's a lot of great stuff. I mean, the efficiency of this movie, what is it? Like we're like 19 minutes in and we know everything we need to know about what's going to happen in this movie. It's going to be it's so good.
Yeah, there's no fat on this movie at all.
I was just going to say that. It's literally no fat. There was never a point in this movie where I was like, they could have sped this up a lot. You know what I mean? It's like by the time when you realize, like you first time you pause this movie to go to the bathroom, you realize there's only like 20 minutes left in it.
Also, but there is one shot.
Yeah.
There's one shot that's a little flabby. I would have changed in this movie. It's when, it takes them they have to get a whole crew of people to dig up the, to find the right place and dig for it. And they pry open the roof and they almost get killed going down in there. And when they escape, they just have this, there's a loose rock in a wall that they push out. And then he and Marion climb out. And there's a very long shot of them walking down a hill. That shot never made sense to me. But
the guy that's passed out in the background,
yeah,
right next to the
what's
rocks.
He doing? Did he get hit in the head with the rock?
You might
Is that what they're saying?
Killed him.
I don't get that shot.
There's no OSHA in Egypt, number one. It's the first issue. Number two, well, it's Egypt.
What are you saying? Life is cheap?
No comment.
Good,
All right.
good. We're learning. Okay.
So
right,
now we have all of our tools of the trade, and off we go. And it cuts to this map that is like this beautiful, old-fashioned 1920s, 1930s movie trope, and it's just done perfectly. And the music is amazing.
I love it. Yeah, with all the gas stops in between.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is great. And then Indy, go ahead.
No, just can anyone imagine having to share an airplane with Nazis? Imagine that point in life in international travel where it's just they're the Nazis getting on the plane with me.
I know. And then they cut to the shot of him looking at him from another seat. The stewardess comes by and she's like, "Would you like something to drink?" He goes, "No, thank you. I'm a Nazi." He just is such a fucking Nazi. It's so crazy.
Also,
What do you not have?
I do feel like Nazi casting quality has gone down. Because so it's 1981 when the film was released. I feel like you had real Nazis on cast or people that were one generation removed from a foaming at the mouth SS officer.
This is not a case where you need to get a actual person from Mexico to play a Mexican in a movie. They didn't actually get Nazis to play them. I want to disabuse you of that idea.
but do we know that?
I think we for sure. Maybe the guy with the incredibly well-defined jaw whose face melts. maybe he was a Nazi. Like he just is like, look, we know he's a Nazi, but just look at the guy. That guy just screams Nazi. Let's get him.
I mean, seriously. I mean, considering that, like, this dude's got the perfect little mole on the side of his face that's not even colored. He's evil. He's got glasses, and he can pimp smack people. Pretty great.
So, John, are you suggesting that similar to what the U.S. military did at the end of World War II, where they went over and picked up Nazi scientists to try and help them, get to space and all this stuff, that Hollywood did a similar activity after World War II?
Well, so he's the Werner von Braun of Nazi acting.
Oh. We must get some in here before the Germans get here. No, I mean, and so I started this podcast, this episode definitely thinking very much so that they had real Nazis casted. And Andy's really, he's moved me away from that. I feel like he drew a line in the sand, and the U.S. government probably did that. Like, no, if provided it's going to help us beat the Russians, anything short of that, we're not using Nazis. So thank you, Andy.
I'm going to give you a glimpse into what it's like working on a movie set. For example, Kevin Smith, he just did a movie, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. And when they go to the hamburger place, Moobies, there's a cook in the back, played by me. And I'm cooking away and flipping burgers, and then all this stuff happens, and I act very astonished. Do you know that there was no food even in the restaurant at all? I was just acting. That is what acting is. Fooling people into did I lose you guys again?
No, we're still here. No,
I'm seeing that.
I
think somebody left the call.
I think Max.
Max dropped off for a second. He's coming back on. So we're pulling. We're pulling.
What's he gonna do? So yeah, I think that they're just sort of like, the blonde-haired guy whose face implodes, that looks super like a Nazi. He's the guy that has to say, I'm not comfortable with this Jewish ceremony. And you're like, what a fucking Nazi that guy is.
Oh,
I think he was,
he
was just acting, I think.
That's a line that's on the nose. It's, in any other movie, I'd feel like it'd be too on the nose. You'd almost be like, they're really like, it wasn't subtle enough. They're trying too hard with that. It was like perfect in this movie. It was just like the perfect delivery.
Yeah,
it made you hate him just enough.
It was one step away from, I would like to inform the audience that the next scene will be you performing a Jewish ceremony. Right? It's just as blatantly in your face. But look at Belloc's lines. Like after Marion, after the truck explodes, and Indiana Jones is drowning in sorrows with a monkey on his shoulder. Right. And Belloc comes in. He just goes straight. He's like, you and I are not so different, Dr. Jones. It's like, that's what you think. That is so fucking on the nose. But you need those things. It's like, what's his name? The great Aaron Sorkin in the movie Malice. It's like the end of Act 2. And he's like, the main character's like, it's times like this when your wife gets a fake surgery so that she can steal millions in insurance money, blah, blah, blah. And he goes to this thing, and he's doing a round table in New York, and this student is like, how could you put something so on the nose in a script? And he said, sometimes you just have to tell the audience where we are. And that's why it works, man. It works for Belloc. It works for that crazy Nazi that you can't wait for his head to implode. It works, man. It's a fine line. I mean, Lawrence Kasdan, one of the best screenwriters of all time.
Right.
He fucking has you right in the palm of his hand. And I'm sure they could have had a great exchange and really made you hate them more. But they're like, dude, we got to get to the end of Act 3. Let's get going.
Right.
So he just says that line. It's amazing.
But that's the thing. It's like if you use those sparingly and as like a way to ground the audience in the specific moment and then move on, then it's fine. It's like where it gets to be bad is when it's the constant stream of those sort of like just constantly telling the audience what's going on. Yeah. But I think
you just described Inception.
Oh boy, don't get me started on that one.
40 minutes of Inception.
No one can describe Inception. Even the director can't describe Inception.
Why would he need to? The characters do it for 45 minutes of the movie.
Andy thinks he's so fucking smart throughout it. It's like a fucking self-flagellation movie. It's like, might as well just watch the guy jerk off for an hour and a half. I'm fucking smarter than you are. Meanwhile, I'm literally just describing everything, all the subtext to you.
To the
Fucking piece of
audience,
shit.
actually, we're going to be talking about Inception today, so everybody strap
No,
the
we're
fuck
not.
in.
We're moving on.
All right, Max.
We're moving back to the
save
movie.
us.
So,
Pull
okay,
it
let's
back,
go
pull
back
it
to the
back,
sequence.
Max.
I'm back. This is the
We're
second
now
time today
in
that our power
Nepal.
shut off.
We meet
Yeah, we're in Nepal.
Marion. She's freaking winning. She's winning a drinking contest with a 400-pound Nepalese man at 16,000 feet.
Yep. And
Just
she
to show
weighs
you.
all of like 110 pounds, probably.
I'm just impressed that the two palest people in the Himalayas managed to find each other for a fucking drinking contest. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, that dude is now. You notice sound design when he finally takes his second shot and he passes out. They put in the sound of a tree falling down.
That's
They
great.
Totally did. And so you see him creaking over. And that's also the scene where Indiana Jones shoots his gun for the first time. And I don't know what they used, like a howitzer or something. But this dude's got a pistol, and it's like he's shooting artillery shells.
It's kind of like cartoonish in a good way, though. It like has elements. It's like fun. You know what I mean? It brings a little bit of
Oh, I love
Like-
that scene. And
yeah.
absolutely a cartoonish. You know, the barrel, the little barrel on the bar gets shot, and the booze comes trickling out, and she stops to take a drink.
Right.
I mean, it's perfect. It's
She
so
hasn't
good.
already had enough as is.
Yeah, she's had like 4 bottles of hard liquor at 17,000 feet, where it's like smoking one puff of a cigarette would put you out for 2 days. And that's the first time we see the Gestapo guy giggle. Very
yeah.
creepy.
Yeah, he reminds me of one of the Ed, and Eddies, just 40 years later turned into a Nazi.
That
It's
is
really what I
so good.
don't.
Not the one with the hat, the other guy.
So not the smart one, the dumb one,
Yeah.
or the
giggling,
He does it-
nunchuck carrying to hang his jacket on.
To which the guy then just holds it anyway. It's like, he could have just held your jacket, dude.
Yeah.
You didn't
Hold
need
my jacket.
that.
Wasn't going to
No,
get
you
wrinkled.
you
Listen, if
must.
you're wearing a winter jacket in the desert, you're not getting that thing wrinkled.
Yeah. I mean,
Once you're not doing it right.
nobody can. We went to the.
Cold Rock.
near- we live near the. Los Angeles County Museum LACMA, and they had an exhibit on Hollywood costumes. And you go in, and it's just really the stories of the costumes. Seeing them in real life is always kind of crazy because they all seem so small.
Mm.
But the woman that made Indiana Jones' jacket, she spent hours and hours the night before with steel wool and wire brushes and things to make it look beat up. And so, but they didn't shoot the movie in sequence, so they think it's beat up, more and more beat up. They made 4 of them. And so the jacket goes from being in good shape to bad shape to good shape to bad shape all through the movie. And nobody seems to think like, oh, it's 116 degrees in this rainforest where I'm running. And I'm wearing a fucking leather jacket.
Right.
So the same is true. In the desert, they're just like, I mean, the clothes are so crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
can you imagine? You're like, the one thing that I cannot get from Dr. Jones is his girlfriend. So I'm just going to like steal her and mash on her, tie her up, not feed her until she's like putty in my hands. And the first thing I'm going to give her is a weird white dress. Like, what's that?
It's so fucking
She's
weird.
like eating her with her mouth full. She's like, it's beautiful. It's like, what the fuck?
Was that a thing back in the day? Because that happens in a lot of like James Bond movies too, where like Bond villains will like kidnap the the woman interest in the Bond movie, and then he'll be like, here's something more comfortable for you to wear while we dine together. It's like, is that something like old creepy men did back in the day?
I don't know how that could ever happen.
I
So, I mean,
estimated
it's like-
your measurements.
Here's the
Right.
difference, though, between Bond and Indy is that Bond would have the first second saved the lady. In this case, it's Indy shows up and says, "Oh, literally, on second thought, I'm actually just going to leave you here because it'll draw too much attention. Good luck."
Right, he's a
Yeah.
pragmatist. Indy's a pragmatist.
It was the right thing to do.
exactly.
And he has experience leaving Marion.
Yeah.
Yeah, does it a lot.
He knew exactly how to do it.
So, Andy, do you know anything around the whole Marion story, the super creepy original Marion story?
Well, I mean, the stuff that's hinted at in the movie is that she was underage, like really underage, and her father, Abner Ravenswood, was Indy's mentor and professor, and Indy was his star pupil, and he and Marion fell in love, but really she, in later life, acts like he took advantage of her, that she was just a kid. And he's kind of a creepy dude, and so he has all this guilt, like the way that he hangs his head every time he talks to her about it. It's crazy. So I'm imagining, could it be worse than that?
It's much worse. So you're not friends with George Lucas by chance, are you?
Not anymore.
Good answer.
Good. All right. So this is from they had transcripts from the 1978 story meetings for this movie, and I'm sure George Lucas really wish this wasn't on anymore, like online anymore, because he was hell bent on Indy having sex with like an 11-year-old. So he's saying like she should be 11, and then Spielberg's like she needs to be older than that, and then he goes back and goes, okay, she's 12, and then you get this fucking Law and Order SVU quote from George Lucas that says, 15 is right on the edge. I know it's an outrageous idea, but it's interesting. Once she's 16 or 17, it's not interesting anymore.
Okay.
And then Jeffrey Epstein just goes, how much money do you need for the movie?
And then one of the women objects, and George Lucas says, hey, listen, honey, you want to go get us some coffee? I mean, it was 1978. Good God, that's awful. That is awful.
That is. And then he fucking does it again in that episode 1. It's like you got like a 9-year-old in love with like a 16-year-old. It's like, what is up with all these kids fucking?
I don't know. You know, part of
Not good.
Something I did in my past, George Lucas, we had my writing partner and I, the guy I did Rocket Power with, Michael Bloom, we were producers at MTV, and he asked them to get us to come and do the episode 1 premiere at the Lucas Ranch. So we were super excited, and he was super nice. And we went there. His daughters, he had already been divorced at this point, and his daughters wanted to make this huge guest list of all like young Hollywood. So like the girls from Charmed were there, and the kid from Terminator 2 was there, and it's all this like young Hollywood guys. And so we decided we're just going to make it into a big party. And Lucas he pulled out the stops. He hired all these models to wear all of the crazy outfits that Amidala has in the movie. But every actor that was there were about 60 young actors. They were all dying, like angling for a spot in one of his movies. He's like a huge director. So they're all like, they have to sit through this movie in the THX theater, and they're all just chewing nicotine gum so they can just make it for another 5 minutes. And they're laughing way too hard at every joke, and they're doing all this stuff. And meanwhile, Bloom and I are standing in the back with McCallum, and he's telling us all these fun inside stories. So we got our crews ready. The movie was coming to an end. All the young actors had just kissed ass for 2 hours, and even the taste of nicotine gum couldn't get the taste of ass kissing out of their mouths. And it was, my crews. I had 2 crews. We were basically backing up to allow George to follow us, and then we had a camera following him to have him leave the theater for the big party. And it was a great shot. We had already rehearsed it without him. And we walk out, and all through the party space outside were all of these standees, these like flat cardboard cutouts of different characters from the movie. And the first one you come up upon is Jar Jar Binks. And somebody had taken a cocktail napkin and a little fork and stuck it into Jar Jar Binks, and the cocktail napkin read, I ruined Star Wars. And he takes it out and puts it in his pocket, and off he goes. He moves on, and we got rid of that footage. There was no way we were going to embarrass him like that. And then years later, a few years later, I was at the Tonight Show, and we went up with, what's his name, from Mad TV, the big guy.
Michael McDonald.
No.
Will Sasso?
Will Sasso. And he was up at the ranch for the 3rd movie. And I just noticed that on the bulletin board in Lucas's office was that napkin. He had saved it. Like, that's that guy.
Wow.
He really has like a lot of pain and weird things going on. And I kind of felt bad for him at that point, because wouldn't you just want to like burn that thing or something?
Oh, yeah. I was like half expecting you to say, and that guy's dead now. The guy who did that. 'Cause George Lucas had his minions kill him. I could see that happening.
We'll see about that.
We'll see about that.
Let's bring him up back.
Right.
I'll talk to him for 20 seconds and kill him with boredom. No, he's a nice guy, actually. He came to another one of our premieres to meet us before we did it. It was the Grease 20th anniversary premiere party. And he came and stayed the whole time, did all the stuff, green screen, danced to the hand jive with his girls. He was a great guy. Just a nice guy.
That'd be a sight to see.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, back to the movie. Anyway.
Diving back into it, we got Nazis torturing people.
That was supposed to be a palate cleanser from the 11-year-old story.
It was perfect for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect.
Everyone would have already forgotten.
11-year-olds as fast as we can. Let's
do that.
As we can.
All right.
And then although he does have that like 9-year-old prince in the second movie, it's like, in my country. Remember that kid?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We know that.
Try to block out the second one.
All right. We'll go back to the first. Now, he's got the medallion. The Nazi has burned half of it into his hand, and it's off to Cairo to meet Salah, who is his excavation pal.
His digger.
His digger.
That's a digger in Cairo.
Indy saves the day by burning down her bar, and then they move into Egypt from there. Yeah,
I'm your goddamn partner.
Also, first rule about blending in Cairo, don't wear bright phosphorescent red pants. How about that?
That was very Aladdin of her, I felt like.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of very Middle Eastern. It fit in.
It was very like, can't touch this parachute pants.
Yeah.
British occupied Egypt. I can wear whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah, there is that. Yeah.
And Cairo was a great example of how Indiana Jones doesn't miss a trick. If there's some suspicious looking dude out there, he's going to spot him. Like a guy with an eye patch riding a motorcycle with sandals and a monkey
A Nazi
that he
monkey.
talks to. Yeah, and he's like, oh, that guy looks weird. No, he just ignores him. He sees him like 4 times and ignores him.
In fairness, I feel like that might have been a dime a dozen back then in Cairo.
Nazi monkeys?
Well, I'm not saying that, but just like guys with monkeys and eye patches riding around on motorcycles.
It was a Nazi. The monkey throws the freaking salute in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it throws the Zeke Heil. It's a fucking party member. It's probably got a card. It's probably a card-carrying Nazi party member.
Listen, guys, I'm not going to put the Nazi label on that monkey, okay? Someone obviously trained him to do that.
No, he had to. He had to do it because, even then, the audience is like, listen, I like a monkey as much as the next guy, but a Nazi monkey, that thing must die. And so when he eats the date, you're like, I don't feel so bad.
Seriously,
if it hadn't Sig Heiled at somebody, you would have been like, shit, man, they killed a monkey.
Actually, very good point. That's a very good point. If you didn't know that
an
monkey
animal
was
becomes a Nazi animal.
That's
Right.
the only thing that's going to keep PETA off your back, is if it's a
Right.
Nazi animal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they're good. Everybody
Like,
gets it.
That's a producer note. Can we make the monkey a Nazi?
Yeah. Because if it's a Nazi, it's a victimless crime.
Indeed.
It doesn't matter if it's a monkey, it could be a Nazi angel for all we care. Killing it is a victimless crime because Nazis, bad guys.
objectively bad people.
Yeah, they're like the reason that you have to have like robots in young, movies that there's violence, because you can kill them. You can't just run around killing people if you want to get a PG rating and get young people to go to it. But Nazis, you can kill Nazis. No big deal.
Yeah, so speaking of this Nazi monkey, he narcs on the good guys, leading to the second act of the Indiana Jones epic
Wait,
stunt
don't forget
spectacular.
that weird guy that looks like
damn it,
Peter
Andy.
Sellers. You can't skip over the weird guy that looks like Peter Sellers that reads the inscriptions on the medallion. He
I don't think I've got there yet.
Come quick, come here, Look.
Oh, you mean the literal real life reenactment of the monkey from The Lion King? That fucking guy?
The shaman. Yeah, we haven't got there yet. We
It's
still
not a
got that big
reenactment if
fight.
the movie came before The Lion King. I'm just saying.
That's true. Live action version.
6 kadam.
This
And-
guy.
Take 1 kadam back to honor the god for whom. Come on, that dude was like, I am milking this shit for all it's worth. This is a SAG under 5, and I'm going to lay this thing as long as I possibly can.
So that's actually the man who invented the blowjob is actually that guy. That's what the character is based off of. True story.
That's why he's so happy.
Right? Right?
Come quick, come quick. That's what she said.
I mean, seriously, men, women, monkeys, other animals, who cares? Blowjob's a blowjob.
All right. They're digging in the wrong place. Moving on.
Moving on.
Well, yeah, you get that Indy's beating up like 10 different dudes, and then you get the flashy sword dancing dude who just gets shot immediately.
Yeah.
All this stuff is happening before that.
Now, when he says, do you see this watch? $5 from a vendor on the street. Practically worthless, but buried in the sand for 1,000 years, it becomes priceless. When he says that line, there's the dude from the crew out on the street, just walking down the street wearing a set of earphones.
Really?
Yeah. Like there were a lot of mistakes there. They were all sick. That's why Indy shoots him.
Yep.
Shoots the guy because he was just sick as a dog. The truck explosion, they just couldn't get the thing. They blew one up and they couldn't get it to roll over. So they put a telephone pole inside and an explosion, a charge at the top of it to ram the pole into the ground. And so when it turns on its side, you see this giant telephone pole sticking out of the bottom of the truck. And they're like, you know what? Leave it. Let's just get the fuck out of here.
Right.
And that's the same thing with the sword guy. Like the guy spent months practicing. They had it all choreographed, and then Harrison Ford had food poisoning. He's like, why don't I just shoot him instead so we can get the fuck out of here?
This guy's like,
It was the greatest scene.
That poor bastard, though. I mean, like, he's like, oh man, here's my big break. I've been my entire life. People said I was crazy doing all these sword skills. Now look at me. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're just gonna shoot you.
he
Was that
hangs
dude in
up his sword.
brownface?
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think they had a lot of locals. I mean, one interesting thing about the movie is they came in under budget. They hired tons of locals. The dig scene, they put tracks down that they used for, the mechanics of how they were excavating the site. But Spielberg used all of those as camera dollies too. They just did a lot of really clever things, and that was one of them. The locals and the way that they built that scene. They shot out the dig site 2 days early, and that includes that crazy one-wing airplane fucking fat guy with a mustache who takes his shirt off before beating someone to death.
Well, I know Spielberg was like really just like gung-ho on finishing the movie under budget because all of his other movies, like obviously Jaws and then his other two, they'd all gone like over budget and over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bloom and I, after the first MTV Beach House, we met John Milius, the famous screenwriter
Yeah.
who wrote the final draft of Jaws, and he wrote Clear and Present Danger, Apocalypse Now. He's just like a big guy. He's a really nice guy. And he just tells all these stories, and he's best friends with Spielberg. And he said that when Spielberg was making Jaws, after he had started, Milius pitched, sold, financed, pre-produced, shot, edited, and released an entire movie, Flight of the Navigator, before he'd
Jesus. Yeah, that I watched that documentary a couple years ago. It's pretty good.
Who
The Milius
Scotty Mosiers?
documentary?
Yeah, that's Scott Mosier.
Is that Scott Mosiers? Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's cool. All right. Yeah, you
Getting
got that,
back to
yeah.
sorry, I'm getting very distracted. I have no idea why.
No, it's all good. I mean, this is just shit that we're never going to hear from anybody else, so we appreciate it.
So now
Dead monkey.
The giant. What about the giant Nazi dude in the suit with a big hat? Like, what's he do? He never even talks. The monkey grabs his face and he's just like, doesn't even get a line. And that guy's like in the movie for a long time.
Just walking around in the background.
Yeah.
He was just too big. He wasn't actually part of the set. He just walked in. They're like, I'm not telling him to leave. You tell him to leave.
Yeah.
So let's see. So a German mechanic, evidently, having just fueled the strangest plane in all of World War II. He's 6'8", weighs 400 pounds, sees a guy that everyone thought they had murdered by trapping him with a bunch of asps, sees him and just smiles, cracks his knuckles, takes his shirt off, and decides to beat him to death. Like, what the fuck was that?
Do you mean Tom Hardy from Bronson? That dude?
Oh, is that who that is?
He looks just like the prisoner Bronson.
The last Queensberry boxer.
Oh my God. And then they have the big fight, which was great. It was fun, but dude, he just... Anyway, so they managed to get out of there. They run 500 miles an hour. The Ark gets put on a truck, and Indiana Jones says one of my favorite movies from the lines from the movie, sorry. Where Sala comes in, he says, "Oh, Indy, I'm so pleased that you are not dead." And he says, "They have taken the Ark and it's on a truck." And Indiana Jones says,
Which truck?
"What truck?"
You know, all the trucks in the nation, in this industrialized country.
Yes. Then he jumps on a horse and rides out and it's one of the best slow speed chases in movie history. Like when you look at how fast they're going, you're like, I mean, I think they could just jog up and get him. Like he's going pretty slow in that truck.
It makes more sense now when Harrison Ford was getting dragged by that truck, and he actually was literally getting dragged, but it makes more sense when you're going like 4 miles an hour. You're just speeding it up.
He was literally.
That was the last shot they shot in the movie.
Yeah,
they had dragging him, and if you look, they dug a little trench because he wasn't comfortable with how low the truck was.
Right.
So they dug a trench, and they swept like 2 miles of dirt road so that he wouldn't get hurt, which makes sense. But the stunt that he does, where he goes out through the front window, underneath, comes back out, ties a rope, comes out, climbs back on, and beats the guy up and sends him under, is from the movie Stagecoach. There was a famous Indian Native American stuntman who did it, but they didn't slow the thing down. They didn't dig any trenches. I don't think he was even wearing a leather jacket. They just were like, "Do you think you could do this?" He's like, "Yeah, why not?" And that stunt was actually done like for real, and they shot the original stunt in about a half a day. This stunt took about 2 days to shoot.
Dude, shit, Tim, what was that John Wayne movie we did where like 4 people died on set?
Rio Grande.
In Rio Grande, like 4 extras died in that movie.
Yeah.
Like 2 of them drowned. Like
2 of them drowned.
Shit
2 of them
do.
died because they like got trampled by horses because they were doing all those weird horse tricks.
Yeah.
Bet you those Stagecoach producers were fucking livid when they realized that they could have put a leather jacket on that Native American guy.
Yeah, we could have helped him. No, they also but the Westerns, there were so many Westerns where, well, movies like The Misfits, which was a late Western in the 50s that Clark Gable and Marilyn Monroe, everybody that worked on that movie got sick because they shot it where they were doing above ground nuclear testing in Nevada. Like people were like,
yeah.
So you guys are doing the testing. We're going to push our whole production another 4 days until you guys are done. And then we're just going to march in there and shoot a movie.
Yep. That happened with John Wayne. They think that John Wayne died from like nuclear cancer from one of the movies that he did. Same thing.
You mean the one about where he was a Mongol?
I think it was the Genghis Khan movie.
The
that
Genghis
like
Khan
literally
movie is the
killed him.
best.
They were filming it in a nuclear bomb site. They didn't know back then.
I love
Welcome
it.
to America.
But it's something like 80 people died that were part of that movie.
I love how dumb people were back then. It's just like, Nagasaki Hiroshima wasn't that bad. Let's go film right next door.
These Americans are much stronger skinned.
Yeah, you know what really helps with that radiation poisoning? Smoking.
Right.
You want to be
Smoking
breathing
4
through a
packs of
filter. That's
cigarettes.
all I'm saying.
Going back to Harrison Ford, though, in that plane scene, the wheel actually ran over his knee and he tore a couple of ligaments, too.
That's all that happened because if I would have thought if that reel ran over his knee, like that would have been like his leg would have been amputated.
Apparently, the wheel was so overheated that it was soft, so it didn't like completely crush him.
Oh.
Only Harrison Ford can pull this shit off. Harrison Ford who can crash land an airplane on a golf course and still walk out.
I did not know he
Nosedive.
did all his own stunts in this. I did not know
The
that.
thing, though, just look at the other side of the coin. Harrison Ford, who can't seem to land an airplane at an airport. Just saying. They're like, Harrison, we're taking the license this time. Because he flew into the last thing he did was fly into Santa Monica Airport and land going the wrong way on a runway that had a jet coming in on it.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
well, you're not supposed to be taking bong rips in the plane while you're flying over Harrison.
In fairness, yeah, his judgment of late has seemed to be not great. I mean, he does
Also,
have an earring now.
there was an enormous snake in the cockpit too. People don't mention that.
That's why he
He hates
crashed.
snakes.
He's taking advantage of his senior citizen status and just getting away with, well, almost literally murder. That's what I do. When I'm 65, I can't wait to take my pants off in public and just walk around. I'll wear
Compared to
underwear.
what?
Yeah.
Huh?
The
Compared
problem
to
though is you
what?
have to be in 8 of the 15 biggest box office grossing movies of all time for that to be feasible
Yeah.
as a plan.
Yeah, you need to be Indiana Jones and Han Solo at the same time.
You'll just see me in 30 years just, I pay my taxes, just walking around in circles in Times Square.
Okay, good to know. Might want
Fun
to tweet
stuff.
that first so I can be in another city if possible.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
I
So-
feel like in this, sorry, one quick thing. I feel like in this scene there's a when he comes crawling in over the top into like the cab of the truck and he grabs the driver in like a headlock and then punches the guy in the face. Harrison Ford definitely punched that guy in the face, like full on, gave that guy a fucking black eye, punched him in the face. And
Well,
I
that
was
stuff happens all the time.
right.
That happens in movies. A friend of mine's, his whole family they're all like first ADs, and they did that movie Universal Soldier with Jean-Claude Van
Yeah.
Damme.
Yep.
And what's his name?
Fucking Drago.
Yeah. So
Whatever the fuck his name is.
Drago.
So he's the guy that goes berserk and goes and kills all the scientists. And my friend did a bit part in the movie because his brothers all worked on it. And he was one of the scientists, this nerdy guy, and he's wearing his little hazmat suit. And Dolph Lundgren says to the director, "Hey, listen, I really want to stay in character here, so I really want to kind of give the guy a whack. I'm not going to hurt him, but I would like to punch him." And he
Yeah,
fucking
I'm only
breaks.
6'5", 240.
Yeah, and my friend is like 5'6", 125.
Oh my god.
And he's like the tenor in residence. He's the tenor in residence at Lincoln Center.
Are you about to tell us that he was your friend?
Well,
Is
no,
that
he didn't
what
get
this
killed,
is?
but he fucking broke his nose.
Jesus
He punched
Christ,
him
I was
in
gonna
the
say,
fucking
not
face.
surprised. Not
So yeah,
surprised.
you know how Apollo died in that Rocky movie? I want to do that to this guy.
Do they have workers' comp in Hollywood?
Well, I think when 3 of your brothers are on the movie, everybody just apologizes profusely, and you find a check in your mailbox.
Get an
Fair enough.
autograph.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And Dolph Lundgren was super nice about it.
What do you mean he was super nice about it?
Oh,
How
he
do you
was
get?
like,
How
I
are you
can't believe
nice
I
about
did that. I feel
breaking
like such a
someone's nose?
jerk. Did you guys get that on camera? And they're like, yeah, the shot's perfect. Check the gate. Let's keep going.
Right.
Well, if you can see when he curb stomps him, he's smiling. So
Can we do that one more time? I think I was smiling too much.
hold on, I'm almost done. I'm almost done.
Gosh.
Just give me
Let's
another
do
minute
American
here.
History X. Oh yeah, he liked getting curd stomped. It's fine.
Oh my god.
Ugh,
I
jeez.
must break you.
I will break you. Here's a piece of iron.
So we end up at Omar's garage, and everybody they're just like, listen, we got to have a plan B if we can't get this thing out. And they're like, plan B is that we're going to ask everyone we know to bring melons to Omar's garage. Then we hide at Omar's, and everybody just runs around holding melons up. And it's going to make the Germans so furious, they're going to take one of the melons and smash it on the ground.
They actually hit a dog. that Nazi does. Just you hear the sound effect of the dog crying in the background.
Yeah, that might have just been a sound effect, but I'd like to think they did hit a dog.
I would have loved to hear
Totally
like
real.
a really like childish like saying in a German accent when he throws out, "Get your melon out of here." I wanted to hear like something like that when he threw it. That's such a good scene. He throws it like such a little like bratty little baby.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's such a good
Yeah.
scene.
And then you get the Wilhelm scream instead of the dog crying.
I would have loved for it to hit the ground and they just pan over a little bit, and there's the guy with the eye patch kneeling in front of a tiny monkey grave.
And the melon comes in and knocks over the cross or whatever is in front of the grave.
Just gets impaled by it.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What a week I'm having.
I'm on your team.
So, next up, Marion, they say goodbye. They meet Mr. Katanga to get on the ship. And Marion says goodbye to Sala. And she freaking plants one on his face. And you can see the actor just be like, well, now I'm going to, be holding this boner for a couple of thousand years. And he runs out and he starts singing Gilbert and Sullivan.
I'm Dr. Jones now.
Not in the script.
So they meet Mr. Katanga. And Mr. Katanga, I'm like, now here is a cool dude. This guy reminds me of Jack the pilot.
Yep.
Like, there's a story here.
There's a story there. There's a great turtleneck there. I mean,
the turtle.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I wish he was throughout. His story was expanded throughout the rest of the movie.
I'm like, did that dude have like a variety show in the 70s? Like, he was awesome. It's like
Superfly.
Clifton Davis Jr. So these are all references to things that happened when I was alive and you were not. So he's like, my cabin is your cabin. And they're like, fucking A. So evidently this guy has the worst decorated cabin, but he has a fucking full-length mirror in there.
Yep.
And Indiana Jones is like, I'm really hurt. But rather than feel to see if my bones are broken, I'm going to look in this mirror, and gets whacked in the face with it. That was improvised.
That was improvised?
She said, and then she says that it's not the years, it's the mileage. Another improv line. Like, they had a lot of fun making that scene because everything was so planned and storyboarded. I think they actually got a second to breathe through their noses and do something fun.
It's almost like they were flirting a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing, is that this was the moment where he saves her, he saved the day, and she can forgive him. And when she does, he points to his mouth for her to kiss it, and she falls asleep, she's like, we never seem to get a break. So, I mean, there was your railing right there. That could have happened.
I know.
Just saying.
I was waiting for it.
So my perfect, depiction of this happening is the Nazis walking in midstream. What would they say?
Wait, like as that scene happened, or there's something else going on that?
Oh, like Tim's full
mid-thrust.
full railing. Yeah, mid thrust. I mean, it's just like, let's just say the condom broke, the Nazis walk in.
It totally depends on which Nazi walks in. If it's that chiseled jaw guy, then he's like, you need to stop this. He's like,
I'm not comfortable with this missionary style ceremony you're performing.
If it's like the clammy four-eyed guy who wears the leather coat.
He pulls out his nunchucks and just starts stroking them.
He is sitting in the corner. He's sitting in the corner and breathing heavily the entire time.
And giggling. Tracing taking his pinky and tracing the burn on his hand.
Oh, my face is really melting right now.
So they get accosted by the Germans in a submarine, who somehow, maybe it was the fact that Sala was belting out a Gilbert and Sullivan song at the top of his voice as the ship is leaving. They're like, do you guys see anything unusual? No. Wait, one thing. Guy in brownface was singing Gilbert and Sullivan. So they get pulled over, and the chiseled German guy's like, you're lucky we did not blow you from the water. Savages. And I'm like, you know what? It doesn't kind of make any sense that they don't.
That's what I was thinking.
Right.
About
We got a submarine.
That dude doesn't come back because they sunk that boat.
Yeah. They're like, we got a submarine. And just in case somebody decides to hitch a ride, we're not going to take it underwater at all. We're just going to drive it on the surface all the way to this secret island. But a cool thing, I love the pacing of this movie, and the pacing of seeing the Nazi symbol in the hold in that beautiful shot.
There it goes.
See, he was talking about Nazis and beautiful stuff, and look what happens.
Hey, you guys got me again?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yep.
So, am I interrupting, or do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
That
Go for
No,
it.
finish that thought.
where did I lose you?
You're talking about the beautiful shot of that Nazi flag, Andy. That's what you were talking about.
No, don't get crazy here. It's the shot in the hold on Katenga ship.
Listening of the swastika
crate
and the
that has the-
backdrop of the red lighting. Mm-hmm.
No, it was a
Never wavering.
German, eagle, but it gets burned out from the inside.
Oh yeah.
And that's really the first time. That's really the first time that we see that there's magic, that
Right.
there's actual powers there, and it's all you need. It's all you need to believe the end of the movie. It's fantastic. It's such shorthand. It's beautifully done, and you're like on this thrill ride. So now, this is the end of Act 2 where they thought they won, but now all is lost. The tables turn immediately 100% around. Indiana Jones is going to be on top of a submarine driving to a weird island, and the submarine pulls in, and before the submarine stops moving, Indiana Jones is already up in the scaffolding, beating up tiny German soldiers for their uniforms.
And that's the only part of the movie that I think we can all relate to is when Indiana Jones can't button his shirt.
Yes.
Yeah, but he can't because it's too small. It's not
just
that he
like
has some
us.
sort of. It is Kasdan said that was a gag that he's always wanted to do, because in so many World War II movies they conk somebody over the head, take their uniform, and it fits them perfectly.
Right.
So he did it like that. I thought that was very funny.
Yeah, they do it again too in the third one. I'm pretty sure.
Well, they steal from that movie pretty heavily. In the second one, they have two guys with scimitars that he doesn't have his gun for, if you recall.
I just want to know where Indy put his hat when he jumped in the water.
You know what I want to know? In that scene when he's leaving Katenga's cabin, when they see the submarine, he pulls a gun out and it's an automatic. It's not his pistol.
Right. It's a Colt 45.
Like, what is that?
I thought the same thing. And actually, there's another scene. I think it was all the way back in the bar where there's a front shot of him shooting the gun, and it was a Colt 45 there too. It wasn't the revolver that he usually had, but it was a quick shot, and I was kind of like, that was a Colt 45. So it's almost like they had some prop mix-ups in there too.
Or there was like an extra story going on that we don't like. That was they just decided to use it and not worry about continuity because they did it in edit or whatever.
Well, then there's so many quick shots in this movie. I mean, the whole the scene with what's his face, Frenchie there, when he's smoking hookah. That's the longest shot in the entire movie, and it's like 1:16. That's it. It's just nonstop cuts. So I mean, that could make sense. It's like, all right, it's take 7. They had lunch. They had lunch. Comes back.
We started this conversation talking about how the fuck Indy managed to keep his hat after riding on a submarine for thousands of nautical miles. Mm-hmm. How does his hat not fall off? Through 3 movies, we are not recognizing the 4th one. He gets punched in the face hundreds of times. Dropped off the sides of boats, fighting on top of tanks, getting shot at. The hat never one time comes off of his head, ever.
Well, they actually do 2 gags based on people saying, why does he never lose his hat? So in the second one, when they escape from the gross spider and millipede infested tunnels under the in Kalima land, and he slips through, and but just before he slips through, his hat comes off, and he reaches under and grabs it at great risk to himself. And then in the third one, he's in that super slow speed tank chase. The tank goes over the side and they all think he's dead. And he's so exhausted and plays so stupid as he climbs up, from 20 feet away. And as soon as they see him, they're just like, oh, fuck it, he's fine. It's Indiana Jones. Let's just ignore that any of this happened. And his hat blows in and lands at his feet.
Yep.
So
it's a great one.
They're conscious of it. They know that
Yeah,
It's magic, you know.
And I think they do the whip in this one for the other, like right before the door's about to close or whatever in the temple.
Yeah, he does the same. Yeah, it's a similar game.
Yeah.
I think it's a magic hat. I think it's a magic hat. Okay, he's got a magic whip and he's got a magic hat. I've had those little whip bracelets before where you slap them on your wrist and it curls around. Those don't even fucking work. And this guy's whip can also do that. And his hat doesn't fall off except exactly when they want it to. It's magic.
Okay, and so what's the rule here? Like, how long do we humor him, or do we just roll our eyes and move on? Or
just move on. No, just keep going. I'm not going to let it die. It only dies when the group says it dies, and that's kind of the way it goes.
Okay, well, I say, Gabby Johnson is right. Let's move on.
All right, so then after this, you got the American Indiana Jones with the German rocket launcher getting into a Mexican standoff with the French Belloc, who calls on Indy's bluff to blow up the Covenant, and then he ties him and Marion to a sacrificial pole.
Now, here's a fun thing. Count the flies on people's faces in that scene.
Oh, yeah.
What the hell? Like, were they just like, listen, it's a featureless, dry wash. We're basically in an arroyo that exists in millions of places across the world, including Los Angeles. But let's shoot here because evidently there's like a fucking horse dung farm next door, and there's flies like going right into Belloc's mouth as he's talking.
It does. And it
Yeah,
doesn't come back out.
Belloc ate like 10 flies in that whole thing.
Yeah, he's actually wasn't supposed to be playing a Frenchman. It's just his mouth was full of flies.
Right. There probably was like
funny how that
there's
works.
probably like a dead dog next to where they were filming, and they were just like, should we move that? And like, no.
Production value, gentlemen.
Yeah,
Production value.
We all just want to go home.
What do you mean you didn't clean up the dead monkey?
It's a union job. I'm not fucking doing it.
Yeah, I'm props, not animal handling.
Yeah.
Well, dude, that's a prop now.
Doesn't say anything in the contract about dead monkeys.
It's not a prop unless it's been pickled.
So here's another time where you're like, okay, badass, crazy Nazis. They're in the middle of nowhere. They don't want the Fuhrer to know what the hell they're doing. They're marching in procession. They're like, you know what? If we're going to do this, let's do it right. Why don't we carry some like Nazi standards and flags in front of us? And then Indiana Jones is like, I am going to fucking blow you and all of these people to Kingdom Come. And they're like, go up there and surround him, but don't shoot him.
I know.
Like, what is that?
I know.
They're like, put the rocket launcher down. That guy would have been shot so many times.
Yeah, they're Nazis. Come on. What do you think they're going to fucking do?
I don't
Surround
understand.
him and tie him to a pole.
And let him watch this Hebrew ritual.
Okay, so why did they have to walk this pimp box into the middle of the desert, though? Really?
Because they couldn't get any Jeeps on their submarine.
But,
They needed an altar to do it on.
dude, you could open the fucking pimp box like in on the deck of a battleship or something. Well, I guess that the Germans had. No, they had their battleship at that point. It doesn't matter. You could fucking open it in a broom closet. Why?
No,
did they need to walk?
Belloc says why. He says when Marion is like, how can you be in league with these scumbags, even though he's like a worse scumbag? And he says, my partners are just a means to an end. Meaning, I want the power from the. It is like a radio for talking to God.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, is it like a couple of kids in their bedrooms in the middle of the summer with their two-way radios, or is it really powerful? Like, what is the thing? Like his idea of what it is, obviously he underestimates it. But that's why they have to go to a private place, because he wants to seize the power from the Ark for himself, and then he can do whatever he wants. That's why they go out there.
I used to do the same thing with beer in high school. Same thing.
Yeah.
Let me just make sure it works first. Let me just try some. Let's go over here. Let me just try a little bit more. Let's go in the woods. Try some more.
That's exactly the same thing, Max. Yeah, definitely.
It's the hand of God.
I thought the metaphor worked. I was going to give it to him. This is my way of rolling my eyes and moving on.
Oh, okay.
So I
Fair
have
enough.
to bring up one thing, though. The Nazis are so gullible in this whole thing. It's hilarious. This like French guys like pulling one over on, like, that's, first of all, that's ass backwards. That would not be happening. The Nazis would be pulling one over on the French guy. And this whole entire time, he's like, they're trying to kill Marion this whole time. And he's like, no, I want her. She's mine. And they're like, all right, fine. Again, they would have just put a bullet in her brain back in Cairo and moved on.
And then here you go. You can have her.
Well, while
Right.
I may lack the experience to know what would make a realistic Nazi, they do a lot of things to denigrate them. Like Salah says, they have not a brain among them. And they're just constantly saying these guys can be fooled.
Right.
It's just part of the storytelling. I think you're right, but I think it's pretty funny. And then what about in that scene? Belloc gets the fly in his mouth, and he's like, you can keep the Ark. I just want the girl. And Belloc's like, you know what? Fuck you. The girl is mine.
Right.
And he grabs her and he says, you have no more chances to Marion. It's like, what?
Dibs.
He's
Massive
like,
power
that is
move.
it's all his ego. He's like, I
Right.
got to beat Indiana Jones. There's nothing you possess that I cannot take.
Literally.
Belloc's like the kid back in school who like you knew he was like copying your answers and you like you let him kind of, and then you realize that he got a fucking A on the exam and you got like a B and you're just pissed because you did all the fucking work, but he for some reason just like cheated the right answers
But
away.
he would always get caught because he couldn't just copy off your paper. He'd have to say, there's no answer that you can write that I cannot copy down. And they'd be like, who's talking?
Belloc.
Such a dick. Then he grabs Marion and they're like, you know what? Let's do the ceremony. Let's tie them to this pole. And for some reason, and this was evidently played out more in dialogue, they just could not get it. It just didn't cut right. That Indiana Jones was the whole time like, none of this shit's real. And then at the end, he's like, I think it is. So they just did it with that one line where he's like, don't look, Marion. Don't look. You have to keep your eyes shut. And so in order to make that a bigger meal out of it, they had the actors improvise, and she kept screaming, I have to look, I have to look. And there's a great outtake from the movie where Harrison Ford says, well, then go ahead and fucking look. You never listen to anything I say.
That's awesome. God, you've been like this since you were 11. Christ.
That might as well have been like
That was a great callback right there.
Right.
I tip my hat. That was funny.
Yeah. All right. So getting back into it, you get the whole Belloc and doing the ritual, opens up the covenant, it's only full of sand, and it's a trap.
Can we talk about Belloc's outfit?
Did I bring my weird turban that I can't really explain
Right.
why I'm wearing it?
Yeah.
Why did he get dressed up for this? I don't know.
He's a
I have no
showman.
fucking-
It's a showman. Come on. He's
God
French.
wouldn't notice. He's like, God's gonna think I'm one of those guys. Like,
He
that's really what he's doing.
He really took this to heart that it's a ritual of another religion.
Yeah.
Really, he was like,
Be-
oh well, this is exactly what they would do.
Belloc's
The
the kind of
wrong
guy that
religion.
shows. Belloc's the kind of guy that shows up to a scrimmage in like a full uniform. That's why.
Yeah,
Because we all know the
Tuxedo.
Jews wear turbans.
He definitely wore a tuxedo to a luau on this one.
But anyway,
But then they're just like, then if you've seen the movie once, watching that scene again, when you see people in the position of what their stand-in made out of gelatin version of their bodies are, and they're just about to melt or implode or explode. Like, what about the dude whose head it's Belloc's head.
yep, it's Belloc.
Just full on explodes.
I mean,
You're like,
you got like the librarian ghost from Ghostbusters like breaking in, and then like Belloc turns into a dude from Scanners, and then you got the other two guys that just their faces just melt.
yeah, it is.
Fantastic.
And the Wraith, that is one of the best music cues in the movie where the magic is happening and it's very like poltergeisty sounding.
Yeah.
And then suddenly her face turns into that of a skull and the music changes into something sinister. And then that crazy sound comes from the generator and everything goes to shit. It's so good. Belloc starts screaming, shit shoots out of his eyeballs. All the Nazi soldiers have to stand there and pantomime being, blasted through with light beams. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, just get a mouthful of lasers. So the movie originally got an R rating from the Belloc scene. That's why they put a bunch of fire in front of him to block out what was happening, because I guess it was like too gruesome the first time around before his head explodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It wasn't the MPAA saying, we are uncomfortable with this Jewish race.
I was going to speak
Lose
to the
the turban.
11-year-old, but there we go.
They're like, the 11-year-old's
stays
fine.
in.
Yeah, that's okay. We're good with that.
Turban's out.
We got Epstein Sr. here. He's fine. It's okay.
All right. Should we just wrap up the movie here? Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Well,
as
then
far as face
it's got a
melting
great
goes?
epilogue, one of the most iconic epilogues of all time. And in the version I watched last week to, refresh my memory, they fixed a lot of the stuff. There were mistakes in the movie that they fixed. One being at the very end when they're wheeling the crate, when what's his name, Blue 5 says, we have top people working on it.
Top man.
Yeah. Yeah, who?
Top man.
Man, if I say it slower, then maybe you'll get it. And
Did
they
I
cut to
stutter?
the scene, they cut to the warehouse scene, which is really one of the most brilliant and iconic moments. I mean, that's pure invention right there. And they wheel it down, and then they turn right before the backdrop. And as they turn, just wheeling that thing caused the backdrop to flutter. And so in the original film, you could see the folds of the fluttering backdrop, and they fixed it, which I think is a little bit of a shame.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta
I
keep
just
some of
love
shit
that
in.
nothing can protect, the world's craziest, most dangerous secrets other than the U.S. bureaucracy, the
I
U.S.
think that's-
federal government's bureaucracy.
It's so good. They're like, what else is in there?
No
That was
one
actually,
will
that
ever know.
scene is the inspiration for the movie and series The Librarian on Turner.
It's also an homage to Citizen Kane, too, with the ending.
That's true. That's true. They have all the crated stuff.
Trophies and all that, yeah.
Well, Tim and I are just going to back off while you two just fuck. So, yeah.
Going back to that first blowjob in the 30s, yep.
Good God, Magnum. I mean, you can't show appreciation in this group without having a label slapped on you.
No, we're very afraid of anything that's approaching emotion.
For the most part.
Well,
yeah.
that
It's called
I can
being
get
Catholic.
behind. Yeah, no kidding.
Lots of guilt.
I mean, I think what they should do, though, like Disney Plus should do like a spin-off and show how they, like, all those artifacts got there in that storage
Oh
facility.
my god, that's a great idea. Could you imagine all the little like tangent stories you could go off on
one-offs.
that?
Yeah, every
Yeah.
episode's a one-off.
Just do
Perhaps you're
Young
not-
Indie. Do Young Indie. They used to have like an old
There was a
animated
series. There was
series.
it was not
Oh,
animated.
okay,
It was
so
live action.
Yeah, they had, yeah.
And it was the Adventures of Young Indiana Jones, and he, like, it's him at different ages. There were like 3 different actors that play him, and one of the things they do is something is stolen from there, and they have to go get it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that would be endless material, though.
Well,
There
including the
would have
11-year-old
been
girls.
there would have been really what the franchise should have become when they cast River Phoenix as young Indiana Jones in the third one, and he passed away. So they decided not to pursue it with a different actor, which I thought was crazy. And meanwhile, Harrison Ford is like, all right, I'll make this movie, but I want to make Indiana Jones 9. And they're like, well, the next one would be 5. He's like, I'll make that one. So they're gonna make one. It's still in production.
Yep.
Still in pre-production. Craziness.
And the thing that's nuts now is the movie came out 40 years ago. So if you actually want to have it be like, in synchrony as far as the time goes, that means that Indiana Jones for this new movie, they're going to be a year away from Star Wars coming out. It's going to be 1976.
That's hilarious. That is great.
Yeah.
What is it? Indiana Jones and the last prostate exam. Like, what is he doing? What's he gonna do?
Indiana Jones and the first rascal scooter.
He's just going to see lots of J.J. Abrams lens flares. Remember that white light I was talking about?
Yes. No, it's Indiana Jones and the jitterbug phone. How does this work? Turns out he's got a kid that he never knew about,
Right.
and all he does is ask the kid how to use his phone.
Yep. Indiana Jones and what is this disco music these kids are playing? No, part of me actually also wants to see Indiana Jones go back to that storage facility just because like Nixon wants to use it on the Democrats. Just get some like the wrath of God.
Yeah. Nixon's like,
we're gonna stop
I'm not comfortable with this Hebrew ritual.
Indy, I want you to break into the Democratic National Office.
You'll have the support of the wrath of God. The wrath of God. Okay.
I know there was no crossover in your lives with Nixon, but you guys do a pretty good impression.
It's really just me doing the Futurama version.
Yeah, that's just years of The Simpsons for me.
Yeah.
I know. It's like my kids were always understood all my references, but they didn't get the original reference. They got the Simpsons version of it.
Dude, just wait until like for our grandkids, like wait until it's like 2050 and kids are going to be doing Trump impressions, having absolutely no idea who Trump was.
Oh,
Same
my
shit.
God. Except way worse if the world's even still here.
Yep. All right, time for trivia. Andy, do you have any extras?
No, I'm very honored that you guys asked me to do this movie with you because it really is one of my favorites. I can't believe it, and I really enjoyed watching it again and talking about it with you guys. So.
Perfect.
Yeah, well, likewise. Well, I'm really happy to hear that the 11-year-old wasn't your only contribution to this, though. So I'm really happy.
I did not.
That was
have
my
anything
contribution
to do with the 11-year-old.
No, it's his now.
And just for the record, that's the first time I've ever said that.
Isolate that audio. Andy's career's now ruined.
I don't know. I think the whole show might have done me in.
Yeah.
Yep.
The fact that he came on, I think that did his career.
Yep.
Falling
into our trap.
2.5.
Yeah,
2.5 listeners aren't going to do you in. You'll be fine.
Yeah. We're big in Nigeria, Andy. That's what the tracking's telling us. So
McElfresh did Hold My Popcorn?
Oh my God.
Okay.
Dude, we just hit the charts in Turkey today. We're 16. It's great.
Wow.
Yeah. Big time.
That's great. I mean, doing a podcast with Kevin Smith, it is amazing to look at the metrics of, you're like, holy shit, how many podcasts do they listen to in Mali? And literally in Timbuktu, there's it spiked at 4 people. Like, what's going on? But it's very cool. And that's the modern audience. I mean, congratulate yourselves.
Yeah.
It's great.
I kind of sometimes wonder if maybe people are putting podcasts on like in other countries like that to maybe learn English. Maybe it's like part of an English class over there. It could be like used as a conversational tool kind of, and which scares the shit out of me because if they're actually using like our podcast.
It's like, no, Moboto, you will not see a white light if you stick your finger into your asshole.
These are the lessons that people know, though. But honestly, the first thing you learn another language, how to swear. We got that covered in spades.
Plenty.
That is true.
Plenty of where
Very
that came
good.
from. All right, quick couple trivia things here. So the monkey man that we're talking about, eye patch dude, he's also the guy in the jungle in the beginning of the
That
movie.
seems very reductive, by the way.
The monkey
But
man?
Continue. Yeah.
Oh,
is he the guy that gets killed first with all the things?
yeah, he's one who pulls a gun on Indy, who then he whips him. Same dude.
Yeah, I dubbed him Steve. That's his name.
Old Steve.
He's like, fuck, I was just killed by the Jovitos, but I got better. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy a monkey and move to Cairo so I never have to see Indiana Jones again.
Oh, fuck.
I'll contract out for the Nazis. It's great.
I
They
lost
let me
one
choose my
eye.
own hours.
All I got is my motorcycle and a contact to buy a monkey.
In this precious, precious monkey of mine. This is the only film in the series to be nominated for Best Picture.
That makes sense.
Yep. Somehow John Williams didn't win Best Score for this movie, which I don't understand. It's such an iconic.
I have met him. Nice guy. Just in passing, because I was working on another movie we were doing music for. But the people I know that have met him, if you push play, asking him about like the big regrets in his life, he's won so many Academy Awards.
Yeah.
And he spends his life thinking about the ones that he didn't win. Isn't that crazy?
No.
Well, that's why he's
That
so
is
successful.
no way
though.
to live.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. But still, God, dude. How old is he at this point?
326.
Okay, understood.
He was inside of the Ark.
He was.
He was one of
He's
the
like,
ghosts that
hey, I
came
don't know
out
about
and
you
melted the
guys,
face
but
off."
I am
Yeah.
totally comfortable with this Hebrew ritual.
Let's make that abundantly clear, everybody. We are very comfortable with this Hebrew ritual.
Hands down.
All right,
We're
then
totally
last little,
woke.
last little bit of trivia. Jeff Bridges and Nick Nolte turned down the role, and then, I mean, obviously I think everybody knows by now, but Tom Selleck had it, and then he lost it due to scheduling conflicts with Magnum PI.
Good.
Oh my God.
Good.
You know what really happened was he's like, listen, I'll wear the leather jacket, but can the pants be much shorter?
Right.
Have you seen Magnum? I want them really short.
And they have to be jeans.
Super short. Like hot pants short. And they're like, I think we have a scheduling conflict, Mr. Selleck.
Did he have a mustache back then?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's Magnum PI.
I could not see Indiana Jones with a mustache. I can't. I absolutely cannot.
I can see it if he's got the scruff around it.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. He was supposed to be like Tom Selleck is like 70s Playboy swinger like look. I feel like the character is supposed to be sort of like dignified. I mean, he's like a wild man, but he's kind of like a dignified wild man. I just don't see Tom Selleck playing dignified like Harrison Ford did.
No, I mean, Tom Selleck, he couldn't pull off a three-piece suit until he made it to Blue Bloods. Like, that was the first time in history. So, no. So, first off, he's not going to be a professor at an Ivy League school. No. And he's not going to be best friends with a British premier of the organization or the fucking of the school. Like, no.
Before you sell him short, don't forget, he was the heart of Three Men and a Little Lady.
Oh, yeah. Hey, our original podcast poster was of that. It was 3 Men and a Baby. We just cut ourselves into it.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a reference right there.
Movie holds up.
Max understands you, Andy, and he loves you.
Like the Gutenberg of it all, there was a time where there were two actors vying for the most on the poster titled movies acted in 1 year, and it was Steve Gutenberg and Michael Caine, and they tied.
Wow.
Jesus.
With I think 9.
What the fuck?
Like Gutenberg was just pumping them out as like Cocoon 2, Jaws 4, Rear Window. Like he just was. Oh my God.
Oh, wow,
and
Rear Window. Yeah, the remake.
Oh, dude, love it.
and then now he's just runs a pizza place in Long Island.
Yeah. Talk about divergent careers.
Yeah. Talk about
isn't-
cocaine abuse. Sorry.
Isn't that the dream, to simplify? That's always what it comes down to. Simple.
Or burn bridges, one or the other.
Well, there's that too. Yeah.
Also, Steven Spielberg wanted Danny DeVito for the role of Sala.
I
that's
would
funny.
have been balls deep into that.
That would have been a really difficult scene though, when they're like lifting the Ark of the Covenant. Like,
You just see
That's
he just gets picked up by it. Like, oh
I need a
shit!
stool.
Indiana Jones. I am so pleased that you're not dead. Like I'm trying to get him to surround that character, and I just can't even think of how terrible that would be.
Hey, Marion, look at this extra large condom I got in my wallet.
So, anyways, I started blasting. That's what it's going to be like. That and a lot of kicks to the shins. A lot of shin kicks. That would have been the entire movie.
He goes around and gets all those flags, ties them together. Indiana Jones pulls out and he just falls right into the
Oh, shit.
into the map room.
Yeah, and then all that, there's extra stuff like like R2D2s and like some of the artwork in the back, and like the plane is like OBC3PO or some shit. They have a bunch of like Star Wars little things here and there. All right, let's move into.
Here's one more, but it's not from this movie. It's from the second one.
Okay.
Dan Aykroyd is in the second movie. He's the one that puts Indy on the plane that ends up crashing in India. Do you remember Dan Aykroyd? After the escape from the original scene where the Chinese gangster, they have the chase through Shanghai. That's
Really?
Dan Aykroyd, because Dan Aykroyd promised Steven Spielberg that he would do any role he asked him as payback for Spielberg being the guy in the clerk's office in the Blues Brothers.
Huh.
Oh my God.
Also, a little fun fact too is that the Crystal Skulls is Dan Aykroyd's vodka. So there you go.
Yeah, there is that. The vodka is a lot better than the movie, ladies and gentlemen.
I can't
I'll
wait.
tell you
I
that
can't wait to watch that scene. I've never noticed that.
Me either. Yeah, appreciate that.
That Crystal Skull, I mean, Shia LaBeouf, he was great in that like tank movie that takes, whatever.
much. Oh, Fury. Yeah.
He was great in that movie. I don't want to take away from the fact that he is a talented actor.
Agreed.
But when he is swinging through the jungle with CGI monkeys in the Crystal Skull, I'm like, oh my God. Jar Jar Binks is cringing right now. His toes are curling.
There is no Jewish ritual that can clean that off of our palates.
Misa not even fuck up a movie like this.
Misa not so comfortable with
Just him being a greaser
with this
is
Jedi
uncomfortable
ritual.
enough. A greaser, really.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll have a field day of that one.
Oh Jesus.
See the movie one time.
I will listen, but I will not watch that movie again.
No, we'll save you the time.
We would not inflict that upon you.
That's why I go over scene by scene in this, so you don't have to watch the movie.
Oh, that's so nice.
All
As
right,
all of this has been. I felt that I heard the sighs, so I could tell that you guys are wrapping it up.
we are wrapping it up. Time for questions, real quick. Who's your favorite and least favorite in this?
Favorite? It's easy to say Indiana Jones,
Yep.
but you do have to love Karen Black. Or Karen Allen, I'm sorry. She has such a job to do. I don't think Spielberg really was an actor's director at this time. And she has to be like as tough as a guy, but also vulnerable and also be the object, woman and stuff. And she carries it off. Like, she's great. I think she did a great job.
Spielberg said after this movie came out, he's like, I ruined Karen Allen because like she was so like hard nosed and tough that's like no one's gonna want to cast her in anything now.
Well, that's so funny. I thought he's like, I ruined her because she was only 11 years old when
Hey, I didn't say you did.
Least favorite, I got to go with the monkey totem eye patch guy. It's
Steve.
like, they're like, they like took him to wardrobe and he's like, can I wear all of this? Like, it just was not a. Ugh.
He probably just came back. They probably like walked him into the wardrobe room and like turned their back, and then he just put on it all, and then they turned back around. And they're like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "This is my wardrobe. This is what I chose. So bye."
He Lon Chaney'd it. Lon Chaney Jr. famously was in all these movies. He had a daughter to support, so he was the man of 1,000 faces. He could go in as an extra one day and then come back and put on a disguise and be an extra the next day. And he was in some movies like 6 or 7 times as different characters. So maybe that's this guy. Maybe I sold him short. Maybe he was better than Karen Allen.
I'm gonna say so. My favorite is Major Arnold Todt, and I'll tell you why.
The giggling Nazi whose hair grows back.
Yes, he's my favorite. I'll tell you why. A, because I respect a man who looks as clammy as he is and still insists on wearing a full winter leather coat in the desert. Also, always a big fan of characters who are extremely arrogant, but also exceedingly incompetent. It always just makes for a comedic adventure. So I'm a big fan of him. Not necessarily like his character, but just he added a lot to the movie for me. And
He does have one of the most ineptly choreographed moments where he's on one side of a table and there is a amulet that is burning in a fire, and he could just easily like kind of whip around and grab it, but instead he slowly reaches over it, exposing all of the vital parts of his body, and then burns his hand.
Right. He just like can never figure out how to be in the right spot in one of those mix-ups either. It's really funny. My least favorite this is kind of a, obvious, is Belloc. He, as his character's great. I love him, but it's like it's you love to hate him. So, he's my least favorite.
I got to defend Belloc in one sense, in that I think the actor was given a tall order because Spielberg loved Francois Truffaut, who played the French scientist in Close Encounters. And so this guy is like, he wears all the same outfits, his hair is done the same way, and I feel like he was kind of pigeonholed into all that stuff. And then he was given all of the weight of doing those over the top, on the nose lines. So I get what you're saying, but I respect that guy for that.
I'll jump in real quick.
And plus, it ruined his career. Also, what else have you seen?
Yeah. I'll also say that Belloc. I'll say that he was probably my favorite. I mean, obviously it's Indiana, but I mean, he's like the Thomas Edison of the archaeology world. Like, he just lets Indy do all the work, and then he just has his goons come in and just steal it from him. So I can respect that.
Analogy. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and then my least favorite's gonna be the monkey.
The Nazi
Fuck
monkey.
that monkey.
Yeah.
Snitches get stitches.
Wow.
Whoa. Well, my favorite is the Nazi monkey. I felt like it was true to its nature. It is an animal, so it has one person that it trusts and loves, and everyone else can go fuck themselves. And it decided to throw its lot in with its one-eyed Nazi turban-wearing man. So I love the Nazi monkey. My least favorite is Indy's boss. I do not think that this dude's dick swagger nearly matches that of Indy. Therefore, he can't properly manage Indy and clearly just goes whatever Indiana wants to do. And I feel like you need a harder, more firm hand. Kind of like Sean Connery to be involved. Just maybe.
Okay.
Spoiler alert.
Just
That's
wait
where I am.
till the third movie when Marcus becomes a super inept idiot.
Yeah.
Does anyone speak English here? Hello. Help me.
Should I ride this horse backwards? What?
That's just the British. Yeah. Too many years of complete hegemony over the entire planet will do that to you.
In gin. Too much gin.
I do like the Belloc comparison as he. It's like I just now envision Indiana Jones, like he's got all these ancient tomes. He's traveling the world trying to figure out how to get this idol out, and Belloc's just reading, Jovitos for Dummies.
Electrocuting elephants at the same time.
Yeah, that happened.
All right,
Thanks, Edison.
last one real quick. Just how IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes have their own rating systems, we decided to make our own. So what would your rating be for this one, guys? And Andy, this is when you just give an absolute ridiculous, stupid rating. Makes no sense.
I would give it 11 monkeys that were poisoned by bad dates.
He's listened to the show.
Quite a high rating. Quite a high rating.
Out of 70.
Oh, wow.
Oh, a real number.
A perfect rating.
Boy.
Yeah. I find it very pleasing to think of 70 dead monkeys. I don't know why.
They gave us AIDS. It's their fault.
I'm going to give this movie 14 uncomfortable references to an 11-year-old girl.
Woo.
That's my rating.
Good. All right, Tim. I'll give this 11 hashtag MeToo's for Marion. Out of,
Well done, Max.
thank you. Out of one large pocket for Indy, wherever he has to put his hat in.
Oh, Jesus. I give this 15 Nazis out of one of Indy's hats mixed with 3 prostate climaxes.
Going all the way back to the beginning.
I think that's that like Rebus puzzle that's going around the internet right now, isn't it?
Yeah. Drives people insane.
Yeah, the prostate Nazi puzzle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. That'll be an app by the end of the week, I'm sure.
All right. Well, that wraps up week 1 of our Indiana Jones movie marathon. If you like the show, please rate and review. Tell your friends about us. You can follow us on all the social medias. And Andy, is there anything that you'd like to plug before we head out of here?
We're doing more edumacations. I just did one with Kevin on Sunday.
Sweet.
Yep.
So, but that is now in the Kevin Smith Club.
Got it.
So it's not the free funny we used to have, but it certainly is. It's worth it.
Are you guys still working on the Buckaroo Banzai TV show?
I wish I could tell you exactly what the story was there.
Okay.
And maybe I will be someday when you call me back to do Buckaroo Banzai.
The greatest movie ever made? Yes, please.
Yeah. That's like John's favorite. We'll bring you back for White Chicks too.
You know, we'll never make White Chicks 2. There's always a rumor every year. Terry Crews, somebody says something, but the guys just can't get back in the chair for 6 hours a day. It was so hard making that movie.
Oh, I can imagine. All right, Andy. Well, thank you again for coming on our show.
Thank you. Hope it wasn't too silly. I had a lot of fun.
No, this is great.
No, really. Pleasure was all ours. Thank you so much. Really.
Yeah. Looking forward
to
to
us.
seeing everything you got in store down the road. And obviously, you're more than welcome to come on whenever you like. If there's any movie you want to talk about, just let us know.
Great. I appreciate that. Drop me a line sometime and we'll get back together.
Yeah, we'll do. And stay tuned for next week when we dive into the stinker that is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.